Hey, I'm Hollis, and welcome to the Friendly Fangirl podcast, where I nerd out on the films, shows, and video games that I encounter every week. Be sure to follow this podcast, and please follow my Twitter and blog at Hollis Films to follow my journey experiencing the entertainment industry's greatest stories. Beware of spoilers, you have been warned. Parasite Eve. When I think about Parasite Eve, my mind goes straight to the intro cinematic opening at the theater. The opera that ends in a mass human combustion and a disgusting mutation of rats. Now, this isn't a game I've played myself. The game is as old as me, so obviously this was a YouTube Let's Play title for me. My initial opinion is basically, this is the Square Enix Resident Evil. And man, the potential is there. The game is outdated. I don't think I'd like the gameplay at all. The rooms you fight in are pretty small, which can be a fun challenge of strategy for some. But the shooting, the inventory system, there's just so many things I don't find attractive. Though I'd love to see this game remade with an updated and clean combat system, because everything else about Parasite Eve was really great for its time, and needs to come to a new generation. First of all, the music. Yoko Shimomura is always a goddess, and I don't need to explain further. Going back to the cutscenes, the CGI scenes are really great for the late 90s. I mean, Square Enix really mastered CGI by Final Fantasy X, let's be real. What gets me most about these cutscenes is the brutal gore seen. Like, you wish to unsee some things. The way animals are transformed is just nasty, and that's awesome. Those creature designs are more than enough to classify the game as horror. It's easy to get behind Aya as a main protagonist. She's a beautiful, strong, and charismatic detective and carries the story well. What may be hard to get behind is the pseudoscience we're fed throughout the story. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but in Parasite Eve, it's more than that. It's kind of silly, but hey, whatever. Again, I cannot stress enough how badly I want a remake for this series. For its time, Parasite Eve did enough to gather a cult following and a couple of sequels, but it could be so much more. I hope there's a future for this series after its difficult past. I say this because some dude on YouTube made a 4-hour video about the series, and I highly recommend watching this too. It's very, very incisive. Lost Season 4. I almost forgot how confusing this show gets, and I love it. So, season premiere, the present becomes the past, and the future becomes the present. I'm glad for this change of pace to the non-linear storytelling. After season 1, for the most part, I felt like I knew what I needed to know about the characters and was getting bored with the parallel backstories that we were fed through seasons 2 and 3. Now it feels more productive as flashbacks are filling in the gaps as we enter a new chapter. But the Oceanic Six, Lance Reddick, of course, we get more questions than answers, and I am just going with the flow. After episode 2, I was definitely positive that these so-called rescuers were Dharma, and good old Ghostbuster Miles straight up said, "We're looking for Ben," who essentially destroyed Dharma here on the island. But Dharma may have lost the island, but they could still win the war. No way Dharma disbanded after that incident, and no way you bring Lance Reddick in for 2 whole scenes of sus dialogue just to say he's not the president of Dharma or something. So, Jack went back to being a doctor, Hugo went back to the loony bin, Kate became Aaron's mom, and Saeed as a personal hitman for Ben taking down Dharma agents. Hello? But Sun is probably the worst off because she gave birth to Jin's daughter alone and then visited his so-called grave. cruel episode as they tried to make us believe he was there when he wasn't. But as soon as she visited his grave, I immediately demanded scientific proof that he was dead. Just with like that stunt that they try to pull in the season 3 finale. If I don't see a corpse, he's fine. I need to see his corpse, not the body staged at the bottom of the ocean. There are 14 episodes in season 4, and halfway through, trust me, you still aren't any closer to figuring out what's going on. Why only 6 came home? What happened to everyone else? Y'all, this season gave me a stroke. Now, of all the characters I want to leave the island, 100% I will make ritualistic sacrifices to bring Desmond back to Penny and Juliet back to her sister. Speaking of sacrifices the island demanded, John is extra crazy this season. Daniel needs a big hug. Sawyer is in ultimate Slytherin mode, looking out for his Hufflepuff buddies Hugo and Claire, and Charlie is dead. Which, nothing new, but I'm still not okay with that. Episode 8, Rousseau died, and that angered me. All these years surviving on the island, she just got her daughter back, and her death was dumb. Like, what did this do for the story, other than set up Alex to be captive and used as a bargaining chip against Ben? And Alex ended up getting shot in the head anyways, it never even mattered, oh my god. Not it, fam. What a wasted storyline. But you don't have time to be angry about it, because 5 minutes later, Ben summons the shadow monster that we still know nothing about. There are several things I would like to say. And then he threatens to get even by threatening to take Penny's life, eye for an eye, and I was like, hell nah. I need Desmond and her to live a long life, have lots of babies and all that. Whew. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. There was this really crazy episode on John's past, which I know I said I didn't want to see anything else, but this is actually really cool because it showed Richard seeing him as an infant. He interacted with him as a child, and then he met Lance Reddick at a hospital or something. There are several things I would like to say. This is followed by the No Place Like Home episode. Episode 12, flashbacks, were what I expected for the start of season 4, to be honest. But now, it's gotta be time for Jack to be like,
we have to go back, Kate.
Right? All the flash forwards we've seen are the Oceanic Six and their life off the island. And only 1 or 2 episodes gave a peek to both Jack and Hugo going crazy and being drawn back to the island. I have to know exactly what happens to the ones left behind. Desmond, Juliet, Sawyer, Claire, Jin, John. None of them are dead until I see bodies. So the 3-part finale goes from here. First of all, F Jack. You literally could have waited 2 seconds for Jen. And instead we got that heartbreaking scream that I didn't want to hear from Sun. And yes, I did talk about this before, talking about the Orchid Station where the concept of time-traveling bunnies was exposed. What does moving the island even mean? Watching Ben move the island was a crazy thing to watch, but I refuse, absolutely refuse to believe Jen is dead. I refuse. Maybe the freighter was close enough to being zapped to Atlantis or whatever too. I don't know. Guys... I don't know what is going on. But all this really became quickly irrelevant. Let me just remind you the season 3 finale. Charlie writes not Penny's boat on his hand before he dies. A disappointment for all of us. But season 4 finale, we have come a long way. Now that was Penny's boat. Oh my god, I honestly had no idea it would come to this. So you need to know. Actually, you can't even comprehend the amount of screaming and crying I did. that dude was like, Miss Widmore, and I was like, that's Penny's boat. That is Penny's boat. Like, it took us a season. That is Penny's boat. I lost it. Bring him home. Bring him home. If Juliet couldn't reunite with her sister, at least Desmond can reunite with Penny. And Ben, I swear to God, leave her alone. Actually, I never want to see either of them ever again. Out of sight, out of mind from everybody. The less we hear about them, the better. Let them retire. Thank you. Now, I was super hyped, super into it, emotionally invested. Then, we see that it was John's body in the coffin the entire time. And I'll tell you, my initial reaction was to roll my eyes. Like, OMFG, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired of this show. I've been confused every episode since season 2, and I have no idea what's going on, ever. I'm quite literally lost. And I want more. Dune is a remake of the original movie from 1984. From what I heard of that film, I can tell you right now that this latest adaptation of the beloved book is much better. Thank you, CinemaSins. Honestly, what stands out to me is how much time we spend learning about the intricate, established fictional universe. A film like this is at a risk of breaking the show don't tell rule in filmmaking, but I'd say they did a good job with that. We're told some important facts via narration and the National Geographic documentaries Paul watches, but we see for ourselves what the political climate is, like in this world, through the eyes of Paul and a few other characters. Not everyone would be too attracted to the slow burn that world building can be, but for the people that are able to watch the extended Lord of the Rings trilogy in one sitting, like myself, this movie is a walk in the park. I, for one, knew very little about Dune and the story. I was very captivated by the world design and wanted to learn as much as I can. I was completely immersed and interested and confused throughout as we reached closer and closer to the climax of the movie. Throwing out some compliments to technical aspects of the film, overall, it's a great film in the eyes of a filmmaker. It was filmed well and the CGI was top-notch as expected. The costumes and beautiful world and set designs were immersive and brought the cultures of the universe to life. The music, it was good. Loved it. But if you heard screaming, it was probably 100 bagpipes blowing in your ear. Thank you, Hans Zimmer. The music was often the key to bringing intensity to the film and definitely kept my attention to this long movie. The length of the movie is long, but I'm not really sure what I'd cut out because it felt like the movie needed every scene, or at least a newcomer like myself did, to grasp the full concept of the story and characters. Before I really knew what Dune was, I was initially drawn to the film by the stellar cast. Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Josh Brolin, Dave Bautista, Zendaya, Sharon Duncan Brewster, and Stellan Skarsgård. Yep, Stellan was definitely in this movie. They all gave excellent performances, and Chalamet was a great lead. This is a movie about a grand universe that should be celebrated by all sci-fi fans. Overall, I'm interested enough to see the next film, which is coming out real soon. I think there's already a trailer I gotta watch it. I will be waiting patiently for part 2 at the end of the year, and I'm sure it's gonna be more action-packed given a full-out war is upon us, it seems. So maybe not the slow burn world building expected, But amazing and well choreographed fights? Yeah, possibly. Star of the week is a voice actor. And if you know me, then you know that I have a very large affinity for voice actors. So when I say Ben Diskin is one of my favorites, that should have some weight. So, star of the week is Ben Diskin. Ben Diskin started off a child actor in movies I've never seen, I guess. His earliest role that I did recognize was in Kindergarten Cop, which I have seen before. I had to go back and watch a few scenes. Kind of cool. Like, did Arnold Schwarzenegger know he was sharing scenes with a legend? Ben's first voiceover roles were the dub for Sailor Moon and a cartoon show called Problem Child. A few years later, he was Eugene Horowitz in Hey Arnold. But his big break, I would say, hands down, Codename Kids Next Door, which I'll get back to in a second. As Ben Diskin transitioned from child actor to just a dude, he really committed to the voice acting path in the best way possible. As a voice actor, you kid around. No surprise, Ben Diskin has almost 400 acting credits to his name, a norm for seasoned voice actors in the business. But still, it's a lot, so I'm going to do my best to bring up the good ones. Ben Diskin has provided voices for projects such as Digimon, Seven Deadly Sins, Beastars, Code Vein, the redubs of Neon Genesis Evangelion and Hunter x Hunter, Hulk and Agents of Smash, the Iron Man and Spider-Man animated shows, Marvel vs. Capcom, a couple of Marvel Lego games, that Friday the 13th game, Elder Scrolls, Sword Art Online, Kuroko's Basketball, Twin Star Exorcists, Blue Dragon, Blue Exorcist, Bungo Stray Dogs, Kill la Kill, Miraculous, lots of characters and additional voices, and tons of anime. Many characters in the Fire Emblem series, and the infamous Gonzo on the Muppet Babies show on Disney Junior, which he won an actual Emmy for with his performance. So yeah, Ben Diskin is an Emmy award-winning actor, guys. He's actually the best. With hundreds of characters, there were bound to be a handful of characters that came with an obsessive fan base. Amongst the list of iconic characters, we start with number 1 and number 2 from the iconic Cartoon Network series, Codename Kids Next Door. Boom. You were 2 years old when you learned Ben Diskin voiced your childhood. He was also really popular as the voice of Sai from the Naruto series. He's voiced Spider-Man a few times, like in Lego Avengers Assembled and Spider-Ham that one time. And Venom. He did Venom once. Everyone hold your applause and gasps, but Ben Diskin portrayed Joseph Joestar in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He was also the main character in the dub for Erased, which is one of my favorite animes. I'm personally a fan of his portrayal of Eusis Alborea in Neon Falcom's Trails franchise. Trails of Cold Steel and Trails in the Sky just kind of hit differently for me. So when I started Steel, I heard him for the first time and I was like, bruh, that's Ben. And of course, there is no role more famous than the ever iconic young Xehanort. Making his debut in Dream Drop Distance 11 years ago, and being an essential character in Kingdom Hearts 3, Ben Diskin is definitely a favorite amongst Kingdom Hearts fans. Being a voice actor, a lot of times your job is to voice NPCs or monsters and enemies, not just main characters. You'd be surprised how many voice actors just specialize purely in the additional voices department and are literally in every animated thing ever of all time as an additional voice. D. Bradley Baker. Anywho, Ben Diskin has guest starred or gave additional voices for projects like Avatar, Spider-Man, The Last of Us 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Final Fantasy 13, 15, and 7 Remake, Nier Automata, Sekiro, Regular Show, One Punch Man, Demon Slayer, Mob Psycho, Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels and Bad Batch, Bleach, State of Decay 2, Tales of Xillia, a couple of Shin Megami Tensei games, a couple of Call of Duty games, the occasional role in a Pokemon project, a few Scooby-Doo shows, We Bare Bears, and Octopath Traveler. There are a few instances when he was a guest on live actions, such as Drake and Josh. The last few years, Ben Diskin has been mostly popular for his role in the hit show Agretsuko, which will be airing its last season soon, or it's out now. I don't remember, but now that it's over, I'm probably going to watch it maybe next year. He's also been in Vinland Saga, Dino Girl, Gauko, BNA, Record of Ragnarok, Boruto, and the latest Digimon series. Of course, Kingdom Hearts fans would love to see his return to the series. I know there's a lot of hype around the Dark Road thing, and people want a voice-acted version of this. So do I. I really need to do another review on Kingdom Hearts. But that's neither here nor there. Ben Diskin, he's a legend. Look him up. Appreciate his work. Follow him on Twitter. He's awesome. Thank you. Bye.
That's it for this week. Again, follow me on Twitter or leave a comment, and let me know what you've been fangirling over this week. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you again next week.